reports have now indicated that Trump is supportive of a 16-week abortion ban with exceptions for rape, life of the mother, and incest, I believe. Now, we have gone over on the show before many times that these exceptions are not actionable just based on the time frame that would necessitate the exception being put into practice. Basically, if you need to go through a court proceeding to prove rape, to prove incest, you've already passed a threshold by which these states that are putting this stuff into law would determine that you would be allowed to get an abortion anyway. And sometimes this takes years, and then the child is born at that point. And so the exceptions are just ways to put a bow or like a cherry or some sparkles on top of the big turd that the Republicans are proposing. It's not actionable. It just makes it seem like they're a little bit more humane when they are. This also, notably, is a departure from the Republican mantra of most of my lifetime, which is that this should be left to the states. Lindsey Graham was, reportedly yelled at by Mitch McConnell and other Republicans when he introduced his own abortion ban with exceptions. Was it 16 weeks, the Lindsey Graham one, if I'm not mistaken? Bradley can double check that for me. Ahead of the 2022 midterms, and Republicans did really badly. Like the one saving grace right now for Biden.
It was 15.
It was 15.
Yeah.
So similar to Lindsey Graham's. The one saving grace for Biden right now is that abortion is clearly activating a lot of voters. And that might be the only thing that rides this genocide supporter to re-election. And, God, I really hope Trump does not win again. So that's hopefully going to save the day here. But listen to how now this is getting framed by NPR's Mara Liasson. I don't know how to say her last name. She was on MSNBC on Meet the Press, or NBC this weekend, with Kirsten Welker. And this is how she speaks about Trump's proposal.
A policy issue that has been in the spotlight this week, abortion, Mara, because revelations, New York Times first to report, NBC News has confirmed that Trump is considering backing a 16-week federal ban. He likes, I'm told, a nice round number. What do you make of this? What's the implications?
Well, there's two aspects of this. Democrats are going to say he's for a national ban. He doesn't want states to decide. Every blue state that's codified road, that's going to go in the garbage can. So that's one impact of it. But the second thing that I think is incredibly interesting is that Donald Trump is acting like a normal politician. He usually doesn't do that, but he's trying, if this story is true, to move to the center on abortion for the general election, to get more where the majority of voters are. And you know what? There is a consensus on abortion in this country. It used to be called Roe. 16 weeks is a little earlier than Roe, but people want abortion to either be mostly legal with some exceptions or mostly illegal with some exemptions.
This is absolutely nonsensical. Abortion rights are broadly popular in this country, and there's a reason that we don't defer to the public about what constitutes medical decisions. Abortion rights, I'm not asking Joe the plumber, about what he thinks the best week threshold is for an abortion. We understand that abortions need to be legal and at the discretion of doctors and physicians because there are things that come up like life of the mother, a non-viable pregnancy, like we're seeing in that case. I guess that was either in Florida or Texas, where if she continues with this, she'll probably not be able to have children, and the baby's not going to live, or the fetus is not going to live outside of the womb regardless. Like, the idea that we're now saying this is the centrist position is completely wrong. And this is how Republicans have success in this country, despite being a minoritarian party, because they break shit, they impose their will, and then people get numb to it and get used to it. And then the media strikes a center position in between what is rational and what the new normal is that the Republicans have created. And they say, hey, we're at the center. Like what we're seeing with the border right now. Republicans want to militarize the hell out of the border. This is a far right position. far, far right.
The human being position is we don't need lawyers and
Yes.
politicians between women and their doctors. Simple.
And then the Democrats cave on everything the Republicans want because they're desperate to get Ukraine money through. And what is it presented as? A bipartisan compromise. Oh, really? Making asylum protections much more threadbare? Militarizing the border, giving ICE like double its enforcement budget just based on one supplemental bill? When you have a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president, that is the centrist position. And it really is a great example, despite the fact that, like the electoral evidence goes to show that people are willing to go to the polls to protect abortion rights broadly and not on the specifics of where you're going to draw the lines. Those questions are largely irrelevant to me. There are different polling data is not all equal. You know, we talked about this in the context of trans people, right? You know, half of Americans or whatever, I forget what the exact figure was, but they don't want trans girls in sports or something like that. So that's more, in theory, an advantage for the Republicans, but the data shows that they don't go to the polls based on that.
And also, even then, it's like how you ask. If you like,
Yes.
do you, would you like a certain accommodation, like blah, 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 right? It's like you can qualify things to like basically come up any way you want.
Right. And so like when you're asking random people where they would draw the line on abortion, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because they're not making those determinations. It's abortion rights at the ballot box versus the party that's restricting abortion. And again, we were told with the reversal of Roe v. Wade with Dobbs that this was a states' rights issue and Republicans were going to leave it to the states. And they contradicted themselves within a few months. And Trump is doing that now, reportedly. So what is important here is to note that the American public understands that Republicans are liars about abortion, that they always want to restrict it more and more, despite what the general population feels, and that there is an activated group of voters that will go to the polls to protect abortion rights regardless. So to say this is a centrist position is nonsense, and frankly, it's another example of mainstream media like NPR midwifing far-right policies into the
Yes.
public consciousness by claiming that it's a centrist position.
This is the real reason people don't like mainstream media. It's not because it's too friendly to gay people.
Oh, what's that a reference to?
I mean, all the people that apparently criticize mainstream media now, it's like, oh, it's apparently because they told us to get vaccinated.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that gay people are accepting this stuff. No, it's because they sold the Iraq War and also like carried water for the attacks on like gay people in the 2000s.
Yep.
And told people that it's their fault that they lost their house in 2010s. Sorry.
Right now, they're not even. I mean, like I turned on because I know I'm hosting the show this week, right? Like, so I'm with my breakfast. I'm like, all right, I'm turning on CNN. I'm turning on MSNBC just to see what the rest of like the country is saying. I mean, they don't even talk. It's like 2 cops were shot in Minneapolis or something, and that's one of the top stories of the day. And it's nothing about the genocide we're funding, nothing. Yeah. And even so, even with that, 50% of Democrats believe it's a genocide, and 50% of people 18 to 29 believe so. So that's why there's mistrust that brews with the mainstream press, is because especially, younger people who have access to different kinds of media, they see what's going on online and there's an immense disconnect with what's being reported.